Hey, it's Jane. Oh, it's my birthday today. Today is March the 8th, and March the 8th is my birthday. Um, I've already had one bottle of sparkling wine, so, do I have any experience at doing the drunk streaming thing? No, but what the fuck, let's give this a try. Okay. What's going down? Where to start actually is more important. Okay, it's my birthday. I turned 55 because I'm born in 1970. Oh my god. We had a 1974 Pinto wagon when I was a little kid. Great car. It had the fake wood siding, the fake wood decal with the trim around it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my god. 55. Like I don't even it doesn't even register in my head. Although I got an email from my mother this evening. She's 85 and she's as sharp as a tack. Um and and I'm like 55. I can't. I don't. It doesn't even register in my head. And she's like, that sounds like a kid to me. Which of course, she's 31 years older than me. So, obviously, I'm going to seem like a kid in comparison. But nonetheless, that's good to hear. I think, because I don't know. Coming from somebody who's 85 years old and still like out and about, and like she travels a lot, and it's impressive. I mean, I'm not a world traveler. I'm not a big on traveling. I'm more of a sit still and think kind of person. But nonetheless, right? To be 85 years old and like out there and doing stuff. It's inspirational. It is inspirational. I will absolutely say that. So, yeah, 55 years old. Good Lord. Good Lord. I don't feel it. I don't feel it at all. I mean, I've done a pretty good job of looking after my health. Well, within terms and conditions, I've done a pretty good job of looking after my health over the years. But yeah, 55 years old today. Jesus. Okay, well, it can only get better, right? All right, so where was we at the last time we had a conversation? I know the last one was almost 2 hours long, and I so apologize for that. Ranting endlessly about global politics, and I could go on and on about global politics over and over and over again. I Okay, yeah. Before we get into anything meaty, I actually have to stop and kind of retract some of what I said. Not in the sense that I now disagree with what I said. I don't. Everything I said was exactly in line with what I'm thinking and my analysis of world politics. More that the day-to-day intricacies of global politics are actually part of the noise I was talking about, because if you did actually sit through all of that, and you're a fucking trooper if you did, um, there was a lot of me talking about, like, what's noise and what's worth really paying attention to. And quite frankly, doing the day by day, play by play analysis of world politics is itself part of the noise. Not that it shouldn't be done, it should be done. I personally feel it's incredibly important that I do it because it informs my, future business decisions, to be vague. And yeah, but is it helpful? Right? Again, noise is not helpful, right? The actual impactful facts, as they are impactful, is very helpful. So my thinking was, at the end of that video, was, oh yeah, okay, I got more to say on America and Europe and particularly in China. China is an entirely separate subject. China is like a 10-hour marathon video all on its own, because the dynamics there are just unbelievably complicated. And you literally cannot talk about what's happening today without going into the deep recesses of the Opium Wars, the First and Second Opium Wars. Yeah, there's a reason why I didn't bring that up in the last video. There's reasons. Santé, by the way. I'm drinking a French sparkling wine. What the hell is it called? Chateau de Montagnette? Montgueret. I cannot fucking speak French for the life of me. Spanish makes total sense. Like, you pronounce the hell out of words in Spanish, particularly Mexican Spanish. It's so crisp and clean. I love Mexican Spanish. But, yeah, French I struggle with. Chateau de Montgueret. Chateau de Montgueret. Anyways, I don't know. Right there. Can you focus? Will it focus? Anyways, I got 2 bottles of that. That's what I'm drinking for my birthday. In celebration, just had a lazy day up until now. I was wanting to get some programming done, but I didn't. I'll get to that. I will get to that. Mostly just kind of, just taking it easy. Drinking some champagne now. Well, not champagne. Sparkling wine now. And after this video is done, I'm going to watch Jesus Christ Superstar, because I fucking love the music, and I just sing the shit out of that stuff when I watch it. Watch the Norman Jewison movie adaptation of the original stage play. It's such a beautifully produced movie adaptation of a rock opera, and I just absolutely love the music, even though I am an atheist. But hey, whatever. This is probably going to be a little bit all over the place, because I actually have had a full bottle of wine up until now. So, actually, let me just wrap this bottle up to keep it. Damp cloth. Secret of sparkling wine. Wrap it up in a damp cloth. Keep it as cold as possible. And then put it in a plastic bag. And then wrap it in a towel. And then you got this double layer of insulation to keep it cold inside and keep the warm outside. Although maybe I need one of those champagne buckets so I can throw ice in with it. I don't know. Whatever. wrap it up, and then just plop it down on the floor because I'm not ready to quite open this bottle yet. And yes, I know it doesn't look like I'm actually ready and prepared for doing this video, but quite frankly, I'm winging it. Okay. Done. Okay, 55 years old. And then what? Where was I going to go after that? Okay, quiet, easy day. Going to watch some Jesus Christ Superstar after this because just love the music. And yeah, it's about enough for that. So last time I did talk about how I had removed like an inch long piece of scar tissue with an X-Acto, and that I still had a little small piece, about a 1/4 inch by a 1/4 inch, that I would have to remove with an X-Acto, as I thought. And my plan was to actually remove it this evening because I thought, well, you know, I'm drinking 2 bottles of wine. I mean, that's more than enough to, you know, make it easy to do that kind of thing. But this morning there was a little bit of blood down there, and I had a close look, and I kind of moved the little nubbin back and forth, and it felt looser than it did before. And I thought, well, maybe it's pinching off on its own. So I kind of got my nail at the base of it and kind of, and yeah, it came loose, came completely free on its own. Didn't hurt or anything. So I'm very convenient. And then afterwards, because it was bleeding a little bit, so I waited like after I dilated and washed and cleaned and everything like that. A couple hours later, basically, once it was not going to be bleeding any further, so there was just a tiny little red patch where it once had been, but other than that, it was just like the final, finally shaped scar tissue at the bottom. And open things up with my fingers and have a close look at the shape at the bottom, and I was really surprised at how natural it looked. It's going to be a weird suggestion or a weird image to put into your mind, but I don't know how much time any of you might have spent looking at the actual fine-grained details of a natal vagina. I have, because I've wanted one my entire fucking life, and I can't tell you how many times I've gone over every single square millimeter of what many vaginas look like, just kind of like going, okay, but why is it like that? Why is it shaped like that? How does that work? And I don't know. It's my brain. It's my topologically oriented brain that I have to understand the shape and structure and meaning of everything I lay my eyes on. So when I look at the bottom of it, it comes down like this, but that's a very gross representation. When I say it comes down like this, okay, yes, it's going to. But what is actually happening right down in the very crevice at the bottom, right? Does it come down sharply together? Like that? Or does it come down and round out a little bit at the bottom so that there's like kind of a scooped nature to it? It's like perfectly between the two. It comes down like this, but I would say the width at the bottom rounds out like that. At the very, 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 very bottom, it rounds out about 1 millimeter or 1.5 millimeters in width, which is, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to explain this, but from a biological aesthetic perspective, and also from a comparative anatomy perspective, the fact that there is still like it still looks some of it still looks a little bit like scar tissue, which will reduce over time, and I'll work on it with vitamin E oil. Um, Beyond that, it looks shockingly similar to a natal vagina. So, I'm really kind of pleased because like the bottom is where I had like I broke all the stitches and it was wide open and it was a nasty looking mess. I have a couple of pictures I took when I actually had a topical infection in the area. Um, so and when it was still wide open and it looked absolutely horrible, but it's healed so well. I mean, you really can't complain about how amazing the human body is at taking care of itself, even under the gross assault of reconstructive surgery. So that's done basically. I just need to let that little tiny little space heal, and then I'll just go to town on it with vitamin E oil to soften it all up because it is rather, sinewy through there. And yeah, it'll be good. Now, other issues. I mean, these are not issues. Like I'm literally at the point where, I'm literally at the point where I'm picking nits based on what, you know, I could possibly have done had I been like stupidly wealthy and been able to afford like custom surgery to my exacting requirements. Well, of course I can't do that because I don't have that kind of money. This was free. I can't complain. I'm not complaining. It's a fantastic job for free. However, there are areas to critique. And the two areas that I can critique are one, I'm not happy with the look of the outer labia. Yes, I know the scar lines are still there and they're diminishing over time, and that's not it. That's not it at all. It's essentially because, so okay, I okay, so skin, right? People when people talk about skin, they're really thinking about everything from the outer fascia muscles underneath right up to the hair and the exfoliation. But when you are talking about that, you're actually talking about, I don't know. You're talking about, depending on the part of your body, but down in the groin area, you're talking about like a half inch of material, right? And there's a layer of fat in there, and there's subcutaneous structures, like fine grain muscular structures, and there's obviously a whole network of veins uh, through that whole layer because the skin layer and the muscular layer underneath are entirely separately vasculated, right? There's no relation to one another when it comes to vasculation or innervation. So there's innervation, there's vascularization, there's fat and sinuous structural tissues, like the same kind of tissue that goes into tendons. Um, some contractive muscle tissue, not a lot, but there is some. Um, uh, there's obviously hair follicles, right? This is all under the skin. The skin itself is a very thin layer. and then there's a whole ton of shit underneath it, and the whole thing's like a half an inch thick in like the groin area, right? So when they do this procedure, they they kind of cut out well, I don't know. I can't do this justice because I'm not a surgeon. It's not my area of expertise. I've seen the surgery done, not necessarily the exact same surgery as my doctor, but like the same, penile inversion technique surgery in general. The same, probably small variations between what I saw on YouTube and what was done to me. But basically they'll cut a like a U shape out, which includes most of the scrotum, um, and then up the sides of either side of where the penis is. They'll peel it right back, and then they'll pull the guts of the penis out, the erectile tissue and all that out, and then they will scrape off the whole inside structure, all the fat and everything off the inside of the skin to basically free up the skin for restructuring, a lot of it going inside, but some of it staying outside. And the end result is down either side, you can feel the transition between like the so there's the thigh, right? There's the inside of the thigh, and it comes up and it hooks down, and all of this is all skin and everything that's completely untouched. And then there's this gap across like that, and then on the other side you have the exact same thing. You have the inside of the thigh, comes up and under like that, but that gap in between, right? That is the kind of like the high points of the labia majora and going inwards. And pretty much most of that has had a lot of its fat structures and subcutaneous structures ripped away. Like hair follicles have all been ripped away, the fat's all been ripped away, and it's basically just the veins and arteries that supply the skin layer itself, and everything underneath has been basically scraped away. Okay, and then they do the penile inversion, and they tuck everything into place, they sew everything into place, and it ends up in such a way that you can actually across the top. I don't know how you describe this. I'm gonna say, I don't know. Probably about a half an inch above where the penis used to be. Okay? So, if you still have a penis, or you have recently had it, well, if you had the surgery, you know what the hell I'm talking about. But if you still have your penis, obviously, I'm talking to trans women. Imagine, so where the front of the pelvis comes down and then goes out like over the top of the penis. If you measure up like about a half an inch, and then if you kind of push in, you're going to feel squishiness. That's all the fat and subcutaneous structures underneath the skin. Well, that's basically cut off and then cleared out. So when you run your hand down the front, you can feel this little bit of a cliff edge, and it's very subtle because it all blends together really nicely. And I'm not talking about anything sharp or dramatic or anything like that, but like if it's been 3.5 months, right? I've had plenty of time to extremely get to know every square inch of the area that was worked on. So if I run my hand down, I can feel where the top of the work area ends and then the actual work area begins, because that's where a lot of that stuff was scraped away and then it's all newly restructured stuff, right? So there's that, which is kind of, I don't know. I think instead of going straight across, about that far across the top, it would have been nice if it had been actually curved downwards to kind of bring off the corner, the shoulders of it. So kind of like you cut in, you cut the skin back to where they go, but you leave the underlying structures. I don't know. Again, I'm not a surgeon, and here I am critiquing the work of a surgeon, and I don't even know if it's possible to do a different job. However, you can, when you investigate closely, you can feel the transitions from the surgical area to the non-surgical area, down the sides and across the top. You can feel those things. Would a total stranger feel it if their hand was there? Yeah, I don't think so. It's too subtle. It's too diffuse. I don't think anybody would notice, but I can feel it. And I am a fucking perfectionist when it comes to this shit. And the other thing that kind of bugs me, and again, like literally I'm picking nits over things that that could not be changed unless I was obscenely wealthy and could afford to like literally go through every single step of the procedure with a surgeon so that I could tailor exactly what happens, which is so unrealistic because that would, turn the procedure into like a $200,000 surgery that I couldn't afford. However, if I could, when they remove all of the erectile tissue of the penis, there's a core bundle of nerves, vascularization, and the urethra coming out to the glands, and then they remove the bits of the glands that they don't need, and they peel out the urethra so that they can reshape it, and then you're just left with this string about that long, of about that long of relative to what? I don't know. About that long of the the nerves and vascularization that goes out to the glands of the penis, and what they do is they fold it upwards on the body, kind of pin it all down, sew it all down, pin it all in place, and then sew everything around it to get it into the right shape, right? So the hooding over the neoclitoris is it's fantastic. I've got no complaint with the hooding over the neoclitoris. I think it looks fantastic. I think the labia minora are kind of like, I kind of get the feeling like they don't really I don't know, like labia minora are longer than they are like natal, like cis women labia minora are longer than what trans women get. And considering that they're just constructed with suturing, why can't you go longer? Like, I don't really understand that. Because that's not the way they look on natal vaginas. So I don't really understand why the labia minora, the constructed labia minora, are so short in length relative to, I don't know. That's something I really don't understand, and I really wish. Yeah, that's a conversation I would actually like to have with Broussard, because I really think that could be done differently. Given that it's constructed anyways, why not just construct it farther down? I mean, okay, so you're doing more suturing. Well, big deal. Like if it adds another 15-20 minutes onto the procedure and it looks better, I think it's worth the extra 15-20 minutes. But anyways, again, I'm not a surgeon. I don't know these things. Maybe there's collateral information that I'm not privy to. This is basically what I'm like, by the way, right? This is what I am like. All I do is piss and moan and complain about why things aren't absolutely perfect, when I should just be damn well happy that they are as good as they are. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a systems architect and a perfectionist in designing systems. L'chaim. Okay, so. Oh, dilation. Man, I keep saying that I think nothing's going to change, and then everything changes. I don't know. Basically, don't ever believe anything I say about the future, because next time you see me, I'm going to say something completely different, because I've completely changed my mind. That's what it's like to be a Piscean. So, where are they? There they are. Okay, so in the last video, I had said, oh yeah, right. In the last video, I was talking about depth. So, I thought everything was about as finished as it's going to be, and I had and nothing. I didn't expect anything was going to change. And then when next video came, or well, the last one, when the last video came, I actually had increased the depth that I had. So let me get these now old dilators, because I don't use these ones anymore. Remember these two? I kept bigging them up, saying they're better than the Soul Source 3 and 4. Well, I don't use these anymore. Because even these aren't good enough in my in my attitude anymore. So I was to the point where I was basically up to the hilt on this, the 36 millimeter, right? I was basically up to the hilt on that, and I was like, yeah, I'm fine with the depth, and I am still fine with the depth. 5 3/4 inches is more than deep enough for like real world usage, right? But I just found that pushing these things in, not so much the bigger one, because the bigger one wouldn't go in until this had been in for like 20 minutes. So everything's loose and limber by the time the big one goes in. So it's not really about the big one. It's more about the small one. Getting the small one in, it would hurt going through my floor muscles. And because, I mean, like the floor muscles still, I mean, it's okay. I say still, actually, it's only been 3.5 months since I had the surgery, right? So technically, I'm supposed to be very still early on in recovery. And so my floor muscles being unhappy about pushing something through them is to be expected. But I just didn't like how much it hurt. And it didn't hurt a lot, but I have a high pain threshold. And I kind of thought, if I have a high pain threshold and it's hurting, maybe it's hurting more than it should, right? I mean, that's not an unreasonable line of thinking. So it isn't the shape that's the problem, because I can't argue with that shape. Like, it's perfectly straight and it's very slight. It's very rounded. I mean, it's not a hemispheric end like I kind of wanted, but still, it's damn close to that. It's not. It would be kind of a little bit pokey at the beginning of usage, but that would go away fairly quickly. But like at the beginning of usage, I'd have like that much penetration, and then I'd be slowly working up to that. Well, I'd be slowly working up to about there over the first 20 minutes. And then this one would go in, and it would eventually work up to, its maximum depth of about 5 inches. And then when I'd go back to this one, then I'd have the full depth, and it would just stay there for the whole remainder of the time, right? So once everything was going, and I'm it's in, and everything is stretched and activated and loosened up, and everything was fine, this system of these two dilators was totally okay. But the initial experience, I didn't like it. It bothered me. It was kind of pokey, it was kind of painful, and thinking to myself, if I find that mildly painful, another person would probably find that quite painful. So I thought, you know what? I like Big Red, and I'll go and get it. I like Big Red, but Big Red is big. My God, Big Red is bigger than this, right? Big Red's a monster. So I thought, well, what if I got a smaller silicone dildo that was kind of like in this ballpark? Then I could do my first 20 minutes with a smaller, more accommodating um, silicone dilator, so that it's very soft on insertion and it's very squishy, so you could push it in, but then as things kind of stretch internally, it's the silicone is like pushing as the body gives, whereas you know this is hard ass shit, and I don't know that my body likes hard ass shit, right? So I thought, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna buy another dilator and give it a try. I got it on Monday, so since I've been using it since Monday night, and I'm sold. These things are gone, done, not using them again. Oh, so hold there. Let me go get the new gear. And yes, I'm walking around in my underwear, but it's boy shorts, so you know what? No one's gonna get too titillated by seeing me getting a flash of boy shorts. Okay, just let me get comfortable here in the chair again. Let's move up. Oh my God. There we go. Hi. Okay, so you are familiar with Big Red. Yeah. It's a monster. It actually is pretty damn big. And no, I can't take the whole damn thing. It's way too long. I can get to about there, which is, I would say that's like above average guy, not like a monster. Above average, but nothing to write poems about. And then I got this one. This is more anatomically sized for a typical guy, and it's uncut, so don't. The fact that it's uncut plays absolutely no role in the functional use as a dilator. I just kind of like the aesthetic of it, so whatever. That aside, the point is, this is basically the silicone equivalent. Shit, I gotta get these things again. Okay, so this is basically the silicone equivalent. I'm gonna try and not make this too obvious. This is basically the silicone equivalent of the 36, right? Because it's a little bit thinner this way, it's a little bit fatter that way, but it averages out to be about the same as that. So this and this are basically equivalent. The difference is when this goes in, it's very squishy, right? So my body, which is like not wanting to give, so those floor muscles are like, I don't want to open up. This pushes through very gently and softly, but firmly, right? Because I mean, like, yes, it has give, but it also has a lot of resistance. Whereas this is just resistance. This doesn't give at all. This is just like rams its way through, right? So this is softer and gentler on insertion, and I get it most of the way in, like at the beginning, and then over the course of the first maybe 5 minutes, I get it like right up to the hilt, and like I get it right up to, I don't know how you, like, to about there, like where my finger is, like that everything that side is inside, right? And I can I can push on it and it's fine because it squishes longitudinally, and there's no hard parts, so it doesn't it any pressure it puts internally spreads out, whereas the hard plastic, when you push on that and it's like, yeah, well, there's no give whatsoever, right? So like this is really and I know it also looks red, but it's not nearly as red as the other one. So the other one's big red, and this is kind of like um um white boy standard. Whatever the fuck that means. Um, but the thing is you can push on it, and it crunches down, and it it doesn't hurt. It's very, very comfortable. And then I do 20 minutes of this, and then I do 20 minutes of Big Red. Oh my god. This is a workout. This is a serious workout on the floor muscles, because if I go in like this way so that the thick part is vertical, it goes in all the way, and it's actually surprising how far it'll push in. Like, I'm actually impressed with how much of this I can actually get in. But then when I rotate it 90 degrees, so it's coming in like this, right? Mm. It's the width of it really pushes out the floor muscles, really pushes out the floor muscles hard, and it's a workout. It is a real workout. And then so 20 minutes of the little guy, 20 minutes of the big guy, and then 20 minutes of the little guy. It's better than the hard plastic ones. So, again, everybody's body is their own. Everybody's body is unique, right? What works for me doesn't necessarily work for you or anybody else. We all have to determine for ourselves what's most comfortable for us, what we need the most, what we're trying to achieve in our recovery, right? Like, everyone's unique. So my experience is just for my requirements, right? Um, so, take it for what it is. But I'm at a point now where definitely the silicone dildos are a better match for me than these hard plastic things, either, like these or the Soul Source dilators or any hard plastic. It doesn't matter. These things, the Soul Source were not comfortable. The Soul Source number 3 was not comfortable from the very first dilation I did after the stent came out. The Soul Source number 4 wasn't comfortable after about the 3rd week post-op. I got these things. They were fine for a while, but even then they became uncomfortable, and I didn't like how like ungiving they were, right? Because like they don't give because they're hard plastic. And then I thought, well, I kind of like Big Red, but I can't like start with Big Red because it's just too damn big. So I thought, well, what if I got a smaller one? And I got the smaller one, and quite frankly, yeah, having two silicone dildos. I mean, again, you can't just have like a typically sized one, and expect that it's going to like do all the dilation needs that you have. No, 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 no. You need to work on it. You need a lot of internal pressure pushing outwards and inwards as much as possible. You need that force in all directions internally, and that's what Big Red is for. That's for the, doing the hard work. But getting it started and finishing it off, this works really nicely. And yeah, yeah. I'm So that's it. I've changed again. The silicone dildos actually are exactly what I need now at this stage in my recovery. And another upside, and anybody who's dilating will know exactly what I'm talking about. When you have one of those things inside, you're sitting on your bed or wherever, and your legs are up, and you're leaning back, and you get this thing inside of you, and it's like, oh shit, I need to reach for something. Oh, but there's no way you're reaching for anything when you've got something hard in there. These things, they bend. So you can have it all the way in there, and then you can lean forward and grab something, and it doesn't hurt. You can feel it bending inside you. Yeah. So, take it for what it's worth. Oh, that's tasting warm. How am I doing for a drunk stream, by the way? Because I am actually halfway drunk. Okay, next topic. I think that's about it. I don't think I have anything. I don't think I have anything more to say about dilating or recovery or any of that kind of stuff. I think I've pretty much covered all that. Yeah. Yeah, I think I kind of changing my attitude towards talking about geopolitics, because as fascinating as the subject is for me, and obviously I can talk endlessly about it. Again, what's noise and what is meaningful, right? And in rewatching what I did, I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. Yes, I agree with all of that. Yes, but it also only applies for exactly the time period it exists in. It doesn't have any meaning for the future. And it doesn't really reference the past that much. I mean, it kind of um, applies to it kind of references the past in the sense that I'm drawing on my own educational background and studying history, but I'm not directly saying, hey, this is happening now, and here's some mirror incidents in the past, and here's how we can reflect this into the future. I'm not doing any of that kind of analysis, so it kind of leads me to think that it's basically just opinion, right? It becomes meaningful when you do say, hey, this happened now. This can be seen as a reflection of specific times in the past, and you reference exact historical events. And then you say, okay, well, if you take all of those, that chain of events, and you distill them down into their essence, you can then use that to project into the future things that could potentially happen in the future. Fine, you're now talking about uh, uh, historical social, analysis, but I'm not doing that. That's a lot of work. I can do it. I could do it, but that would be research, and then I'd have to do properly structured videos. And like these are one shot, I don't edit, obviously. This is like straight through. You can't do this and do anything like extremely well thought out. Like this is shit from the hip, right? So I do want to eventually work towards doing structured, researched and edited videos. Like I definitely want to do that in the future when I have the time and resources. But right now, I neither have the time nor the resources to do them properly. So these kind of like, from the hip videos, they just make a lot more sense. So I think that kind of like bloviating about like what's going on geopolitically right now, I don't see the point of it. I mean, I see the point of it. I live the point of it, but I don't see the point of it from a YouTube video perspective. So I think I'm going to change my tune and maybe kind of come at it from a different perspective. I'll come back to that in a minute. Came across something, well, didn't come across it, thought of it, implemented it, and it works. So, say you personally are a post-op trans woman who isn't necessarily like stealth, but you don't want to make a big deal about you know the fact that you're trans and you're like dating guys and maybe it's hookups, whatever. Like it could be casual, whatever. You don't want to draw attention to your transness because you're post-op and you just feel like, hey, I'm a woman. Let's not make a big deal about this, right? You've left the chasers behind. You're actually dealing with real men. Not that that's an emotional upgrade or anything like that, but whatever. All of that aside, you just want to kind of smooth over the bumps of the differences, right? And unfortunately, well, I mean, fortunately for cis women, but unfortunately for us, we don't self lubricate. We don't. I mean, okay, fine. If you do the sigmoid procedure, then you are self lubricating. But I didn't have that, and most people don't get that. And I would do it if it was like I could do a revision surgery in the future. I would do a sigmoid revision. Absolutely, hands down, I'd do it. But I didn't do that. I don't have a sigmoid procedure. I'm not self lubricating, I'm not actually sexually active yet because it's still kind of early for that. But I will be soon. And I've just been thinking about like how the hell do you deal with lube, but without actually having to like you know deal with lube, right? Because when you're at that point of the evening, you just want to get things moving. You don't want to faff about with fucking bottles of lube, right? Well, I have a solution, and it works. Well, I mean, I haven't actually tested it in the field of battle, but I have tested it with dilating, and if it works for dilating, I'm 100% sure it's going to work for when used in anger. You can buy on Amazon. I know. I know. God, I wish we could just get rid of Amazon and be able to get all of the things you can get on Amazon without it all being controlled by a giant, nasty, horrible corporation run by a guy who makes rocket ships that literally look like penises. All that aside, you can get vaginal applicators on Amazon. Mm. It's not a bad sparkling wine, given that we've got an absolute shit choice here in Ontario. So, um, so it's it's a syringe type. Uh, it's a syringe type applicator, right? It's got a very very rounded tip. It's got a pretty large opening in the tip. It's quite long. It's 4 inches long, right? And the diameter is such that there's more than enough volume in there that if you have like that much lube inside there, I like silicone based lubes. Like, okay, water based lubes are needed for dilating because you need to be able to wash it all out. You need to be able to flush it out. It's incredibly important that when you're dilating, you use water based lubes. But for sex, water based lubes get very tacky very fast and they don't have the lasting power. For actual sexual intercourse, you really need silicone based lubes. So I'm using water based lube in there for the dilation, but it's a one for one comparison. Like in actual use for sex, you can fill that with a silicone based lube and it's totally fine. But that is definitely enough volume to fully lubricate the entire cavity and around, the inside of the labia majora, and just kind of lube everything up pre exercise. And you discreetly, I gotta go and pee, which is actually probably a good idea anyways, because you've had a few drinks, whatever, you're getting in the groove, you're ready to go, and it's like, oh, there's gonna be this pokey thing inside of me that's gonna be hitting my bladder. Maybe I should pee. It's probably a good idea anyways. So you can go in your purse or in your pocket. And you might say, okay, well, yeah, but how's that gonna work? Look at that with that great long plunger sticking out. Actually, here, let me go get the rest of it because I'm missing a piece. Okay, I'm never prepared. Yes, I know. I'm half-assing this all the time. Okay, there's a cap. See that? There's a cap. So the cap goes right over like that, right? And you're still thinking, okay, well, so what? Look at how long that. You can't put that in your pocket. You cannot put that in your pocket. You can put it out in your purse, but you can't put that in your pocket. Oh yeah, you can. Because you take the plunger, off, right? You take the plunger off. Actually, let me get a little bottle. Let me fill this up. Now, in this case, I'm using water-based lube because I'm doing this for dilation, and if it was actually, for sex, it would be a silicone lube, but it doesn't matter. This is just like this is the water-based lube I use. So you put it on there, you push it in almost all the way to the end. You leave like a eighth of an inch at the end. Actually, that's got a big air bubble in it. Doesn't matter. For demonstration purposes. Okay? So there's an air gap at this end. It's all filled up. I mean, there's an air bubble in there, but see, there's an air bubble in there, but normally I don't get an air bubble. Then you take the black plunger head, you push it in. Okay, now the black plunger head is in there, and now you take the cap and you put the cap on, and there you go. There you go. There's a tube of lube. It's a perfect volume. It's a perfect quantity. It totally does the job. You got the plunger there beside you. That does go in your pocket. Like not, I mean, if you're wearing tight jeans, it's not going to go in every single pocket. But you can always find a pocket you can put that in, right? Or you have it in your purse or whatever. Nothing's coming out because it's got a lid on one end, and it's got the okay, it's making a liar of me now. These things always make a liar of you in production. Anyways, if you're careful about it, which I haven't been, the plunger is in one side and just stays there. The cap's on the other end. The plunger bar is separate. And then when it comes time, you take the cap off, you slide it inside, and then you just use the plunger bar to push the plunger head all the way in, and away you go. Anyways, I think it's a good idea. I have tested it multiple times this week with the silicone, my silicone dilator, and it works. So there you go. Do with that what you will. Yeah, so what was the other thing I was going to talk about? Oh, yeah. Okay, so, yeah. So, God, it's so tough for me because I am like literally a political junkie. Like, literally a political junkie. Like, I literally can't get enough socio-political analysis. I, like, live by that shit. But you know what? At the end of the day, that is actually all fucking noise. As much as I love it, it is noise. What actually moves the needle for people is grassroots action and using the system against itself. Now, grassroots action is obviously, getting involved in politics. I've ranted about this on Blue Sky a few times, but obviously getting involved in politics, wherever, whoever, it doesn't matter, at every level, school board, council, state, province, county, whatever, right? Like every level of government, the more trans people are involved, the better. And like there was, most people will know Aaron in the morning, but Aaron's girlfriend in the Montana legislature with the trans man other assemblyman member, state assembly. I don't know if it's a state assembly or a state house. Are they House representatives or Assembly representatives? I can't remember. Anyways, the two of them put forward a sufficiently heartrending I'm gonna, oh, it won't break. Want some yogurt. It won't break. Um, Put together a sufficiently heartrending argument about some anti-trans legislation recently that they actually got a whole bunch of Republicans in the House. Yeah, I guess it's House, State House, to like defect from the bill that was before the House, and then the bill failed. Now, that makes me think, right? There is. I have to really be careful with my words. It's so easy to be critical, and it's so difficult to be constructive. It's There is a difference in America between America and Canada. Obviously, right? Every country is unique, and anybody in any particular country cannot look at another country and say, "Oh, they have it so much better than us." I don't know. Maybe they can. It's hard to say. But it's hard for me to criticize America because I'm not American. I've never been American. Um, so I don't know what it's like to be American. But I can say from a Canadian perspective, and I think people in Europe will kind of resonate with this, is that Americans have a tendency of believing what they're told a lot more than non-Americans. And maybe that's just a perception, but that is the perception. And I get a lot of people who say, I can't tell you how many times over the years in discussion with people, and it's not within the trans community, it's just like with people in general, right? I go on about how the duopoly of the American two-party system just doesn't have legs. It may have been fine for like 2 centuries, but it doesn't have a future. The two-party system fucking sucks ass. Why should Washington get rid of the corruption, right? Why should Washington de-swamp when both parties benefit from the swampiness, right? To me, this seems like a very basic question. But there are a lot of Americans who fundamentally, genuinely believe that America cannot be a multi-party system. And, well, obviously, if that's the way you think, yeah, you're right, you can't. Like, if you genuinely believe you can't do something, you can't do it. But where's the evidence that America can't be a multi-party system? Why can it only be a duopoly? Why can it not be a 3 or 4 or 5 party system, right? I think 3 is like kind of optimum because it's not even, which means there's always tension. I think uneven is always good. I think an odd number of parties is best, is because there's always tension when you've got an odd number of parties. You can never split down the middle. But why can't democratic socialists be their own party. Why do Democratic Socialists have to fucking caucus with the Democrats? Like, the Democrats will literally get down on their hands and knees and lick the nuts of Republicans just to calm the waters. Why? Right? Because, like, there are more than enough. There are more than enough Americans that would say, fuck that. We're not on board with that. We don't want that. We want to fight these cocksuckers. Okay, I'm going to apologize. I'm not going to edit that out. I'm not going to change it. I'm going to apologize. It's a kind of phrase that trips off the tongue, like cunt. It's bad. I don't like it. It's derogatory in a way that's not constructive. So I apologize for that. It's so easy to say, particularly if you've been drinking and you're flying off the cuff. It's a bad phrase. As is cunt. Sorry, my English friends. It is a very, very ugly, bad phrase. Or bad word. Anyways, getting down on your knees and licking the nuts of Republicans is not going to fix anything. It's not going to solve anything. It's not going to make anything better. And the only reason why they do it... Oh, fuck. Just spilled it. I haven't even started my second bottle yet. I'm already making a mess. And the only reason why they do it is because exactly the same corporate donors who back the Dems are the ones who back the Republicans. And they're laughing their asses off, right? Like, all of those corporate donors that are just like flooding both parties with money are literally getting into their back rooms and laughing their asses off. Look what we can do. We can give $100 million to Dems, and we can give $100 million to Republicans, and it doesn't matter who wins. Both will do whatever we want them to do. That's what a duopoly is. Yeah, that's messy down there. That's what a duopoly is. Right? It's an opportunity for corporate interests to pay off both sides and say, hey, all you have to do is give us everything we want and we'll flood you with money. Both sides. Who cares who wins? It doesn't matter. The corporatists don't care who win. The politicians don't care who win. The whole system in Washington doesn't care who wins, right? We got wads of cash. We throw it at all of you. And as long as the final outcome of all legislation benefits corporate America, who cares how it's written? Who cares what ideology it carries? Who cares about any of that shit? Right? That's the problem with duopolies. They are entirely corruptible. Yeah, I know. I know it's gross watching somebody eat on a video, but you know what? It's only yogurt. And it's done, and you survived. So So, what can you do? What can you do? There are moderate Dems. There are moderate Dems. I've been watching recently that kind of the bigger name left leaning YouTubers, YouTubers, like Brian Taylor Cohen and David Pakman. Um, they've been getting a lot more interviews with Democratic House reps and the occasional senator. And of course, they're softballing them because you can't get those interviews unless you agree to softball. And I get that. I get that. If I was a politician, no, actually, no, that's not true. If I was a politician, I'd be like, throw your fucking hardest ball at me. Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, I'm more of the Bernie streak. Um, yeah, yeah, I wouldn't want softballs. But anyways, I'm watching these left-leaning YouTubers, the bigger ones, doing these interviews with mostly House reps, but a couple of senators here and there, and they're softballing them with the questions, and obviously, Jesus Christ, I let it warm up too much. And I'm watching. This is my birthday, by the way. Don't give me any fucking hard time. Yes, I'm drinking and I'm being sloppy, and it's my fucking birth. It's my birthday, and I'll spill shit if I want to. um, so I'm watching these left-leaning YouTubers doing these interviews, which is great that these interviews are happening. But then they're softballing the questions. But then again, I understand why they're softballing the questions. Because these Democrats that are willing to do these interviews do have. I was going to say they do have good intentions, but they have better intentions than DCCC leadership. Isn't it awful how much you have to fucking qualify when you talk about American politics? It's like even British politics is more civilized than fucking American politics. You have to qualify everything you fucking say. Anyways, um it feels like that the I don't know, I'm going to say quote unquote progressive voices okay, now it's all wrapped up. What do we do with it? I'll hold it in my lap. These quote unquote progressive voices in the commentariat of YouTube. Um, it's great that they're actually doing interviews with big league politicians, but at the same time, like when I watch them do these softball questions, and I think that harder questions need to be asked, but they can't ask them because of the conditions based on having that access. It gives more impetus to why progressive politicians are needed in the United States as much as possible. And I will focus on the United States because you know what? What happens in America doesn't stay in America, right? The the right wing, like the well, I won't say the crazy ass right wing because they say the crazy ass left wing. The more ardent right wing have a figurehead in Donald Trump. Uh, the corporatists have a fall guy in Elon Musk and a puppet in JD Vance. Like, the right are so fucking organized. And there's a video I watched earlier which they brought up a memo from 1971, and then I read the memo and I'm like, oh fuck me. Oh fuck me. My god, this project on the right to co-opt democracy in America has literally been going on from at least 1971, because that memo is like basically a blueprint for what we're seeing today. And the lineage you can see progress throughout the 70s, 80s, 90s up until now. But there's nothing like that exists on the left. And I know why. I know why. The right can coalesce on a belief system because that's the nature of conservatism slash regressivism, which is an idealized worldview based on a past historical reference, right? Whereas progressivism is actually about contrasting the past. Like looking at the past and saying, okay, look, we fucked up here, 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 and here. These are the lessons we should have learned along the way. Let's take these lessons we should have learned, learn them now, and employ them in the future, right? Underwear. Progressivism is about taking lessons from the past, learning from them, and changing the future to be something different and better. However, there's a virtually infinite number of different lessons you can take from the past, or a series, or an infinite number of series of small lessons that you can take from the past and coalesce into a larger argument for the future, which is very complicated and requires a hell of a lot of introspection and thought, and analysis. Whereas, the regressives can just say, oh, old good. Done. Right? So it's easy for, the regressives slash conservatives to coalesce themselves around a common cause, old good. Whereas we're like, yeah, well, new good. Okay, but what's new? Right? Well, everybody has their own idea of what new is. Everybody agrees on what old is, right? Like, we can argue about small details, but in the broad strokes, we all agree what old is, right? So if you say old good, okay, well, there you go. Old good. Simple, right? Easy to coalesce around. But new good, okay, well, what's new, right? Like, what's new? What's genuinely new? What is not the old rehashed? What is a fundamentally new idea? And how do you know that it's going to be good, right? How can you know these things? It's all open to argument and subjective analysis, which is why the left is always so fucking fragmented and the right is also fragmented, but at least they coalesce to a certain degree much better than we do. So, don't know if I've lost the thread of what the hell I was talking about or not, but so, yeah, if progressives get involved in politics at every level, at the smallest level, the lowest level, all the way up to the top, right? If progressives get involved at every single fucking level, and oh my god, if trans people get involved in politics at every goddamn level, that would be so fucking good for us. So good for us if we got involved in politics. To see what Zoe? Aaron in the morning's girlfriend. I think it's Zoe. Zoe Zephyr? Ah, I'm terrible with names. Anyways, her and then this trans guy, house rep, you know, like basically torpedoing like an anti-trans bill. Like that's actual, that's activism. That is functional activism. That is hands-on control of the system activism, right? That's what we need. That's what we need. We need progressives and particularly trans people getting involved in politics at every single level. There's a British securities trader, an economist, Gary Stevenson. Um, I love the guy. He's just like, I totally agree with him, and I'm totally on board with everything he's saying. Um, he's basically like the poor kid who got successful in finance. So he was, grew up poor, but ended up like, making 2 million pounds a year in the city in London, as an interest rates trader. And his thing is about taxing the rich. And I fundamentally agree with that. Obviously, we should be taxing the rich way fucking more than we do. Um, um, but hey, you know what? Progressive politicians can put that legislation through. Um, and I agree with that. And I think it's definitely something that should be pushed for on a social level is, pushing for higher taxation for the wealthy and like closing loopholes and shit like that, right? Um, but you know what? You've got his argument about taxing the rich. You've got like Aaron in the morning's position about, trans people getting involved in politics. Both of these are rock solid good ideas from a progressive standpoint. Rock solid good ideas. Um, but there's a middle ground because, like, not all of us have what it takes to get into politics. Because, you have to be comfortable in front of a crowd, you have to have a presence, you have to, be persuasive in your argumentation, you have to be able to debate. Like, there are special qualities involved with being a politician, as is there are special policies, there's special qualities involved with, you know, doing the social justice fighting for the like I'm not gonna call I shouldn't call it a niche subject because I don't think it's really niche. I think it's more fundamental. But the 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 single item argument of fighting for higher taxation for the wealthy, because they're slippery as eels, right? So they're always going to try to weasel out of that taxation, and they're going to look for loopholes, and they're blah 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 blah. So if you're going to fight for taxation for the wealthy, you have to be extremely knowledgeable about um, the politics and economics of the implementation of that. Uh, but there's a middle ground. There is an actual middle ground. And I had an argument a while ago. Well, it was not an argument, but a disagreement a while ago with somebody on Blue Sky over this. And they were like, "Oh well, the system's rigged, and there's nothing you can do. It's controlled by the elites." That belief system drives me up the fucking wall. I'm serious. Don't fucking think that way. The second you think there's nothing you can do, there's nothing you can do. The second, the moment, the instance you believe there's nothing you can do, there is nothing you can do. Okay? That's bullshit and wrong and counterproductive. Okay? There is no system in the world, if the rules are reasonably contiguous and continuous, where you cannot get in and play the game by the rules as they're assigned. Okay. It really gets me. It fucking gets me. It gets me because that kind of defeatist attitude, like there's nothing we can do, like the game is rigged and we can't do anything, that fucking drives me up the wall. Because a rigged game is a game with special rules, right? Okay, you don't know the rules? Yeah, you're fucked. You're screwed. But why can't you learn the rules, right? Are they a secret? Okay, well, I mean, where are the real secrets in the world, right? Like, I mean, how much don't we really know? Like, what can't we infer? Like, even if we don't have concrete evidence, what can't we confer from what we do know, right? Like, there are very, very, very few rules we as average people have no access to. And those rules are in settings so obscure that they're not really a place for argument in the first place. And of course, now I'm starting to get abstract, and you're probably saying, "What the fuck are you talking about, Jane?" Let me get to the point, okay? The basis of the argument was that I said, you know what, the capital markets are open to everybody. Anybody with a small amount of money. I mean, it's going to be thousands of dollars, but it doesn't have to be millions of dollars. It doesn't have to be hundreds of millions of dollars. Several tens of thousands of dollars is enough, which is a lot of money for some people, but not necessarily a huge amount of money for absolutely everybody, right? I can afford to set aside $24,000 Canadian to start trading stock, which is what my current plan is, right? I have baked that into my long-term financial strategy, and I have set aside $24,000 for the purpose of stock trading. I can do that, and I'm not rich. I live with my father in his upstairs. Like, I mean, I don't pay rent or anything because I look after him instead, right? Like, I'm not rich. Like, I'm just living off of money I saved up from a relatively good career in business IT. I'm not rich. I would consider myself middle class. But right now, like, I'm broke ass poor because I don't have any kind of income and haven't had any kind of income since 21, right? So it is possible to access the systems of power, financial power. It is possible to access the systems of financial power if you do your research and you know what the fuck you're talking about and you put the effort in and learn in such a way that you can return profit, right? And I don't need to like give myself as an example of that because I'm not there yet. I'm still working on it, but I can give you many examples of people who have done that. People who have done the rags to riches thing through stock trading, right? Or options trading or whatever. Like whatever security, whatever class security class um you know, somebody might be interested in. If you know what the fuck you're doing, you learn, you try, you go through the process of making mistakes and learning from them and all that sort of stuff that you would in any job environment anyways, you can make a fuck of a lot of money in the exact same world that these rich ass motherfuckers are already cleaning up in. It is entirely possible. It is entirely open, right? Which is what my goal is. My goal, that's what my whole purpose is these days, is to create a new career for myself in stock trading. Not because I'm looking to get rich myself, but because I want to make all that goddamn money so that I can then divert it into like services for the trans community. That's what I want to do, right? But that's my own personal goal, right? That's just my own personal goal. The point I'm getting at is there's a huge broad spectrum of where people can actually get directly involved inside the systems of control to subvert the systems of control, to shave off the power, some of it, a little bit, increasingly greater amounts of the power, and divert it towards progressive causes. You know? You have Erin, what's her name? Erin in the Morning, her girlfriend, in the Montana State House. You know, she was censured last year and locked out, left in the hallway. This year, she actually managed to torpedo a goddamn anti-trans bill. Okay, well, that is a big fucking deal. There is a trans rep in Washington. Okay, well, she's a centrist dem and she's basically useless for our community. But she does still do representation in the sense that she is trans and she is in the House of Representatives. Even though she's useless to us, she's not completely useless to the concept of the cause of being good for the trans community. So the more people get involved in politics, the better, right? The more progressives that get into politics, the better. The more trans people that get into politics, the better. On the other end of the scale, community organizing to push the governments from the outside for policy changes, like the whole thing about taxing the rich, right? I mean, that's more complicated, and it's not really my area of expertise because I don't really know much about tax law, and it varies so much from country to country. But anyways, you know, the whole Gary Stevenson angle also makes so much sense, and people who are inclined that way can get involved and fight for, you know, taking, because we've got such a massive wealth divide these days, right? Taking back some of that wealth from the obnoxiously wealthy people and usefully converting it into services for people who don't have. And then in the middle, you know, there are all sorts of ways that average people can also do their own thing, right? Like for myself, I want to get into stock trading, not stock trading so that I can get rich, but stocks trading so that I can make the money and put it into a foundation, and then have the foundation give the money, grant the money out to trans causes, right? Or, you know, You can go into business for yourself as a trans person and do a lot of direct representation within the community, you know? Or you can do internal activism within corporations. Ugh, it pulls a little bit of my soul away. I did 25 years in business IT, and I have spent the last 10 years in a giant American corporation. And this is pretty fucking soul sucking. But it is possible. You know, as a progressive, as a progressive in a corporate environment, you can actually make a difference. You know, it's hard, but you can do it. This whole defeatist, the system is, it's baked in, and it's baked into the system, and there's fuck all we can do about it attitude that you get from a lot of people these days. Oh my god, it just drives me up the wall. Like, it's so counterproductive, and of course you can't. Of course you can't. You cannot win if you believe you cannot win. So stop it. Stop. Stop with the negative thinking. Okay, what are we at? An hour and 40 minutes. I swore I would talk less, and I didn't. All right. I'm going to call it there because I'm starting to ramble, and my sparkling wine is getting warm. And it's my birthday, and I should be listening to Jesus Christ Superstar because, you know, it is like the best music ever. Willing to, I don't know, have a pillow fight about that or something. So thank you very much. I love all of you. I do. And yeah, 55. I I don't even know what that means anymore. 55. All right. Next time.